Great, thanks.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Like everybody, you wake up this morning, you grab a cup of coffee. The last thing I certainly expected to read is good news about COVID, especially just heard after that conversation. In short, the Delta variant combined with threats of vaccine mandates means that more people are getting vaccines. According to the CDC, in the last 7 days, an average 368,000 Americans have gotten vaccinated every day. That's the highest number of average vaccinations in about 6 weeks. COVID and the vaccine debate creates this very weird intersection in the American political debate, the intersection of science and culture. We want to talk about both of those. Joining us now for all things American culture, Megan BASHAM, reporter for the Daily Wire. But we start with Dr. Joseph LADAPO, professor of medicine and public health at UCLA, to talk about the numbers. Doctor, always good to see you. We appreciate the time. You know, back in high school, they used to talk about kids being scared straight. Have people been scared now by the Delta virus to be scared vaxxed?
Yes, I think there is a segment of the population that, was delaying vaccination for whatever reason. Maybe they just hadn't gotten around to it, or they were waiting to see if there might be more information about its safety or its effectiveness, who have been scared. Certainly, that's a reasonable conclusion from the uptick that we've seen with the Delta variant wave.
Interesting. The other side of that coin, which is being talked about, is the fear of more vaccine mandates and vaccine passports, of people saying, well, gee, if I can't go out to eat in New York City or I can't go to the gym, okay, I'll go get vaccinated. This just crossed a couple of hours ago, Megan, from our friends up north, that being the Canadians. As soon as possible in the fall and no later than October, the government of Canada will require employees in federally regulated air, rail, and marine transportation sectors to be vaccinated. The vaccination requirement will also extend to certain travelers. This includes all commercial air travelers. Two questions, actually only one. Only a matter of time before something like that comes to the United States?
I mean, we're already seeing it hit in places like California. And, there's been a lot of signaling from the airlines that this is something they may institute. So I think
it's pretty different, though, and you'd agree. It's different if the airlines, a private company, does it versus the government mandating it.
It is. It's very different. But at this point, I think we're going to have to rely on federalism, right? I think you're going to see governors in Republican states, red states, who are going to push back against this. And personally, I'm very much against a vaccine mandate. I think that opens the door to a lot of negative government authoritarianism. So I really don't want to see that. And I don't think it's necessary. I think if our CDC, I think if our government institutions were doing a better job communicating to the public, these kind of things wouldn't be necessary.
That actually brings us to our next point, which we didn't plan, but it is an important one about the messaging. And I wanted to get Dr. LADAPO's thought on this. I want to play a soundbite for you from Dr. Michelle Fiscus. She's the former vaccine chief in Tennessee. Take a listen.
What we're actually seeing is our most hesitant population in Tennessee is the white male rural conservative, and that they are stating that, they're not going to get the vaccine really out of spite, and are willing to put their own lives and the lives of the people that they love at risk.
Is that kind of messaging helpful, Doctor?
I mean, some people may think it's helpful. I don't think it's helpful. I think actually it contributes to the concerns that many Americans have about how much of this pandemic has been politicized, including the vaccines. We don't really know what every conservative white male in that area of the country feels, or why he might be resistant or reluctant to take the vaccine. And, painting them with that type of brush really contributes to the politicization and the distrust that we're seeing a lot of.
Well, there's certainly a lot of distrust of the CDC as well, in terms of whether they're politicizing things as well. This was a tweet, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago. COVID-19 vaccines are safe for pregnant people at all stages of pregnancy and their babies. We recommend that all pregnant people or people thinking about becoming pregnant get vaccinated against COVID-19. That's Dr. Rochelle Walensky. Megan, I'm just going to tee you up and let you go.
I'll go. Well, look, we're talking about public distrust. That's, exhibit number one right there. If you don't recognize me first as a woman, then I don't really take it seriously that you care foremost about my public health. What we're seeing in this is that, women have borne the brunt of this pandemic in a very different way than men. We have to decide if we're going to have our next baby. We have to decide if we're going to put off having a baby. We have to make birth control decisions. We worry about how the vaccine might affect our unborn child. So when we're looking to these government institutions for really serious, sober-minded messaging and information, instead, what they're telling us is they care more about political messaging and appeasing these left-wing, really fringe left-wing interest groups. And so that's really disappointing. And that is certainly not going to help public trust in this moment.
Yeah, it seems as though public trust is exactly what we need now. We appreciate you both here to discuss it. Megan,